In Yemen, I guess it's a day of rare good news. This well-known commentator and analyst, Ismail al-Omeisy, was released. And I know you'd been asked about this in August. The Houthis released him, and I wanted to know, did the UN play any role? Do you have any comment on that?
You know, obviously, if that's the case, we welcome his release.
The other is this island of Yemen called Socotra Island. It's a UNESCO. So basically, the UAE has been building bases there, and they claim they were leased it by President Hadi, and there's now a militarization of it. And I wanted to know, since it seems to be something that's uniting various sides in Yemen as kind of a breach of sovereignty, is the UN aware of that? Is the Envoy, has he ever done anything about this Socotra Island situation?
I will check.
And in the Philippines, the investigative online publication, the Rappler, has had its license revoked by the Duterte government today. And it's a well-known
Listen,
critical
we stand,
media.
as a matter of principle, for freedom of the press and a free media. Mr. Lee.
Sure. I wanted to ask you again about this now 10-day disappearance of Southern Cameroonian leaders in Nigeria. You know, each time you've said you're unaware of it, it's getting more and more coverage. It seems to be a regional issue. And I noticed that the Deputy Secretary General, now it says she's on leave. She was there for a week in Nigeria, and I'm just wondering to ask you again, in that week, did she find the time to ask the Nigerian government?
If I have anything on this, I will share it with you.
Is Mr. Fall doing anything? I mean, I don't know
if I have something to share with you, I will.
And I wanted to ask you also, the magistrates in France have officially today closed the case on the Sangaris sexual abuse matter, saying there's a quote where they say that the statements of the alleged victims were inconsistent, therefore no one can be held accountable. And I just wondered, given the UN's presence in the CAR, given the Compass matter, does the UN have any comment on no one being held accountable whatsoever for that report?
There was a judicial process underway for which we had which is led by the national authorities, as always. I mean, and as always, the prosecution of troops is a national matter. Even more so in this case because the troops that were accused were not operating under the UN flag. It's difficult for us to comment without having access to the files. Obviously, I think these issues having to do with sexual abuse, and alleged sexual abuse by anyone, need to be treated, I think, quickly. So I think the more time elapses between alleged actions and prosecution, the more difficult it is to go through a rigorous legal process. For our part, we are focusing on the victims. That's the Secretary General's clear intent, and we will continue to do so.
And just one other thing, just on that, it seems like one of the issues, even at the time, that was raised by some critics of how the UN dealt with a variety of issues in CAR, is the way that alleged children victims are interviewed. And I know that there's Ms. Connor. Do you think, I guess, I don't know if maybe she doesn't have a direct comment on this case, but is there any move afoot within the UN? Because this idea that like children victims are inconsistent, like some of that would seem to be natural, but I know that Code Blue and others have said that the way in which victims, even of UN peacekeeping, alleged abuses have been sort of spoken to in the first time.
I think we take great care when interviewing victims to ensure that people are not traumatized the second time.